Good morning. The Sedona Unitarian Universalist Fellowship welcomes you to our service today.
Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power and let its vision change your heart.
Please recite with me our shared affirmation of mission. This fellowship is a welcoming, diverse, and nurturing beloved community that promotes progressive religious thought and practice to create a more loving, just, and sustainable world.
The flame of our chalice this morning is a symbol of the warmth and brightness of our connections. The flame lights our way back together again.
We bid you welcome. We do not ask what you believe or expect you to think the way we do, but only that you try to live a kindly, helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome, all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions, and all who might find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. We are pleased to welcome back Reverend Anthony Mtuaswa Johnson, our speaker for this Sunday's sermon, Kids These Days.
So though there is no standard definition, if you will, for when one generation begins and another one's ends, we use our approximate and there's always overlap. That said, I speak to you today as a member of the old baby boomer generation. And we are followed by Generation X, that generation born between the 60s and the 80s. Then came Generation Y, or better known as the millennials, born 1980 to 2000. And from 2000 on, they are called by some the iGen or Generation Z, or also known as the selfie generation. That's the newest generation, who I'm going to choose to call kids these days, somewhere between the ages of 3 and 23. Now, most of these young folk are too young to have had any kind of impact on our society in significance, but the older ones may be fighting our war in Afghanistan. In our present time of tumult, if you will, pandemic, economic, the climate, fight for racial and gender equality, the younger ones, they're mostly in school and planning for jobs and their careers in the future. And I do want to honor those young rebels out there fighting for LGBTQ rights and the rights of all people. And they are also those who would smile when I mention Dragon Ball Z. A lot of y'all might not get that, but that's for them. So I stand personally optimistic about these iGeners, this Generation Z, this selfie generation. They tend to be much more tolerant of others, of different races, of different cultures and sexual orientations. They are also, generally speaking, more cautious, a little less on the risk-taking, if you will. Actually, less drinking and drugs in high school. They are also less likely to go to church. They are more likely to think for themselves, and they tend to reject authority figures like reverends and other folks in higher places, government. They also may delay having those romantic early relationships, as many of us had. Kind of none of that high school sweetheart stuff. They tend to wait a while. Teen pregnancy and runaways are also have been reduced. They also are not driving cars as early as we did. Not spending as much time in shopping malls, because they're online, and they're more likely to use Instagram and TikTok, and us old folks have been relegated to Facebook. As I had one young person say to me, don't you use Facebook? Nah, that's for you old folks. So they have moved on to something else. Now, on the potentially negative side, if you will, they are heavy gamers. Yes, they read less books and probably will ask, what's a newspaper? More, much less in person, and of course, everything face to face. It's all about connecting via smartphones and social media. They'll be up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning using their iPhones and again on social media. The studies tell us this may lead to more depression than prior generations. They have less experience with actually looking for jobs or earning money in high school. They may tend to be more loners and feel more lonely, and may possibly, as the numbers come in, have a higher suicide rate. You see, they grew up less supervised, and they have literally seen millions of jobs and to go overseas and what that feels like as a young person watching that. So they tend to be a little more cautious, and as I mentioned, arguably less optimistic than their millennial brothers and sisters. The millennials, were generally raised to think that they're special, a very special group. And they could do anything. Not so for Generation Z. And of course, now we had COVID-19 battering families in our country. And they again see their parents being put out of work. What does that feel like to actually see mom and dad in the middle of all that angst and anxiousness? The children, as we all know, are shut out of schools, place where they would go get the teaching and that care. It's gone, or it's in a different way. So it's leaving COVID-19, it's leaving its mark all across our great country. And we also know that some communities are hit more hard than others. The overrepresentation of Black and brown people among COVID victims is a pattern seen across our country. The pattern repeats itself almost every place we have documentation and data. So we have a nation of children coping with this drama, with this quote unquote new normal, shall we say, of illness, disruption, hoping for that vaccine to pull us out. One thing for sure I know. My offering is I don't think we can just start school next fall or sooner and say everything's going to be okay. There are nearly 74 million of these Generation Z young people among us today. They will come up and grow up with self-driving cars, artificial intelligence, be very present in their lives. Space flights will pick up. Folks will be talking about going to the moon and to Mars and to space stations, and it will be a reality for them. This generation after the iGeners, they will grow up thinking virtual reality is normal. What do they say of themselves? Allow me to bring in the voice of a Generation Z poet who goes by the name of Gillian Ray. I quote, "We buy things we don't even want, just so we can say we have them. Worshipping reality television, the stars, watching those reality TV stars as if they were a golden calf. Praying for more likes on that filtered image of myself, of my own face, because my self-esteem depends on it. We pay no attention to the way the world crumbles around us. We're too busy putting ourselves on an altar. We're too busy drinking the Kool-Aid." He goes on to say, "I asked my dad why we are so self-centered. And my dad said, I'm not self-centered. Everyone else is self-centered. That's a generalization. The young poet said, but all Dad did was prove my point. He just spends all his energy talking about himself, focusing on ourselves. Yet we never change a thing. 'Tis the new Renaissance. We think maybe Aristotle was right after all. But if it's true that we are the center of the universe, why do I feel so small? Tabloids are our Bibles. Televisions are our churches. Narcotics, our salvation. We ask ourselves how we let the earth get this way. But that's the problem. Stop asking yourself and make a change. We are right about one thing, and it is that we are not insignificant. One person can change the world. And he concludes by saying, if only we could disconnect and reconnect. End of quote. So here is to the kids these days, the generation that refuses to hide themselves, the generation that wants to be seen. Here's to kids these days, the generation that is fighting for gender equality, the generation that knows what they want, fighting for justice for all beings, all sentient beings. I quoted one young poet. Let me share the words of another. Amanda Gorman, our newly appointed National Youth Poet Laureate. She reminds us, quote, there is a poem in this place. There's a poem in America. A poet in every American, meaning every one of us. There's a poet in every American who rewrites this nation, who tells a story worthy of being told on this minnow of an earth. To breathe hope into our time, there's a poet in every American who sees that our poem penned doesn't mean our poems end. There's a place where this poem dwells. It is here, it is now, in the yellow song of dawn's bell, where we write an American lyric. We are just beginning to tell. So good folks, they are here and they are our future. And there's no doubt in my mind or heart that they will make a difference. They are our builders of the new. And as that old man Socrates said, the secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. Ashe.
We affirm that love is our greatest purpose, Accepting one another is the truest form of faithful living. The search for truth is our constant star. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to find hope in times of fear, and to live out our Unitarian Universalist values every day as a beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life. Let's take a moment to meditate on these words.
We have been warmed by fires we did not build. We have drunk at wells we did not dig. In acknowledgement of our many blessings and many needs, if you are able, you may contribute now.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds to change the life from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. Yay.
From generation to generation. In a house which becomes a home, one hands down and another takes up the heritage of mind and heart, laughter and tears, musings and deeds.
Love, like a carefully loaded ship, crosses the gulf between the generations.
Therefore, we do not neglect the ceremonies of our passage when we wed, when we die, and when we are blessed with a child.
When we depart and when we return, when we plant and when we harvest.
Let us bring up our children. It is not the place of some official to hand to them their heritage.
If others impart to our children our knowledge and ideals, they will lose all of us that is wordless and full of wonder.
Let us build up memories in our children, lest they drag out joyous lives, lest they allow treasures to be lost because they have not been given the keys.
We live not by things, but by the meanings of things. It is needful to transmit the passwords from generation to generation.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you, Reverend Anthony, and everybody for a wonderful service. And I thank everyone for being here. Before I get into my closing words, I would just like to share a quick story that hopefully warms your heart, and it actually goes with the closing as well. Over the last 4 years, my weekly news magazine started a program that's called the Good News Newsletter. So now once a week, I get something in my inbox. I get 5 different stories about everything that's still good in the world and all the good people out there. So one of those stories I would just quickly like to share with you. In January, Xavier University alumnus ate at a cafe in Cincinnati. His server was also an alum, and he tipped her $1,000 on his $59 check, asking in a note that she share the money with her coworkers as a thank you for their hard work during the pandemic. Go Xavier, he added. The owner of Sip's Cafe shared a photo online, which was seen by 2 University of Cincinnati fans. They left a $1,001 tip at the Keystone Bar and Grill, writing on their bill, "Let's see how long we can keep this going. Bearcats up by 1. Since then, Xavier University and the University of Cincinnati have been tipping generously at restaurants across the area. ABC News estimates the tip war has generated more than $34,000 for restaurant workers. I hope you're all warm and fuzzy inside now. And our closing words for today are by Maureen Killoran. No matter how weak or frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected. Each day act so you may be a little more whole.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 woyaya. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 woyaya,
Thank you for being with us today. We invite you to join us again for future services and for our virtual coffee hour, which follows.